On today's episode of the Bradeaux and Will Show, we're going to be going over the first game in the series. Rockets came out with the L 95-85 in favor of Golden State. So some things that Will and I noticed. You're not going to want to miss the episode, so stay tuned.
All right, and welcome back to the episode of the Bradeaux and Will Show. Today we're going to go over the Houston Rockets versus Golden State Warriors, game one that we got done watching yesterday. Some positives, some negatives, and some things to kind of go moving forward. Before I jumped into the playoffs, though, I did want to mention this at the start of the podcast, and then we can kind of just jump into the playoffs. If Brad is want to comment on it, anything we can comment on it. But the NBA did do their the tiebreaker thing today when it comes to the draft picks. And if anybody was curious about how that shaped up for the Houston Rockets, so mind you, we don't have our pick this year, but we do have a Phoenix Suns pick via the Brooklyn Nets. And that pick did win the tiebreaker with the Portland Trail Blazers for the ninth slot in the lottery. So basically, we have a 51% chance at the ninth pick. So conventional wisdom would say that we're probably going to pick ninth in the draft this year. We have a 28% chance at pick 10, a 5% chance at pick 4, 5% chance at pick 3, 4% chance at pick pick 2, and then another 4% chance at pick 1. So probably gonna be picking it at one of those 9th or 10th spots. But the point of the matter is, the pick did go up at least one more spot than what it was projected to go up. And maybe we'll end up trading this pick for KD down the line. Who knows? We'll talk about that after the postseason. But yeah, Brad, if you want to jump in on that combo, I'll let you. But if not, we can jump right into the playoffs.
Yeah, I'll say it really quickly. These are the same odds the Rockets had last year when they got Reed Shepard.
Really? This is the exact same odds?
Yeah, so they had a 28% chance to go top 4 last year, and it worked. They got the third pick. So we'll see what happens this go around. We'll see what happens.
It was such a funny moment.
We'll see what Silver is cooking. But the Hawks ended up getting the first pick last year with a 2.5% chance to get the first pick. So we'll see what happens. Shout out to Phoenix. That's all I have to say. We can dive into the playoffs. I'll let you start with your first key.
Yeah, I just want to first talk about the positives, right? I think there's a couple of positives, not that many, but there's a couple. I'll start with Alperen Sengun. I think he deserves all the praise and then some for the way he started, the way he performed all the way throughout yesterday's game. Obviously, from the start though, in that first quarter, he had 8.6 rebounds and an assist. He came out the gate swinging, like from the moment the game tipped off. Remember, he had that huge, crazy post. Matter of fact, Brad, what was that poster dunk like in person? Because I was tweaking on playback watching. I know y'all was tweaking in person.
I'll get into the in-person experience after Will talks about Sengun. But for that specific play, it was electric. It was already electric. Everyone jumped up off their feet. It was screaming. I dapped up like 5 people in front of me, and people left and right. So it was definitely crazy. And that dunk was insane.
It was crazy in real time, or at least watching it at home. It was crazy for me to see Alperen Sengun put that Defensive Player of the Year on a poster like that. And then Alp finished the game with 26 points, 9 rebounds, and assists, 3 steals, 66 true shooting, which is really good. If you don't know how true shooting works, 66 is really freaking good. Like league average, I think for big men is like 60. So him being 6 percentage points higher than league average for his position is really good. And he did that while being guarded by Draymond Green, who's firmly in the Defensive Player of the Year race. Some people think he should win it. So very impressive. I want to say to Sengun's credit, a lot of people, myself included, when we first drafted Sengun, we had a lot of concerns about whether or not he would be able to hold up in a playoff setting. Would his game translate? Would he get picked on defensively? And I mean, it is just one game, so I don't want to tell y'all that that's enough sample size to tell you that those question marks were wrong. But through one game, they look wrong, right? He held up perfectly fine. His game, if anything, I'd argue to you that he looks like a playoff riser more than a playoff dropper at this point in time, because his game, from the moment the ball tipped into the air, he was at the top of his game. With it was aggression. His defense did not fall off at all throughout the postseason, and still that first game. And if you look at, like, for example, I hate to keep picking on Zach Edey, but if you look at how Zach Edey has looked in the postseason, like, it is a clear contrast between how Sengun kind of started his career and where he is right now. So credit to Sengun for that. Said not falling apart defensively. His offense elevated to the occasion. And I think that it's on the rest of the Rockets to go out there and help him, right? Support him on that. He had a crazy like Jokic-esque bailout three in the corner. I'm like, I remember I was watching. I'm like, that's a nasty grenade, and then he made it. And I'm like, you know what, man? When he feeling it, he feeling it. So I'm kind of disappointed we weren't able to win that game for Shingle. You can tell he really wanted it pretty bad. But I am encouraged that we have a guy on our team who, the all-star caliber guy on our team. He looked like an all-star. He rose to the occasion. I don't think enough people outside of like Rocket circles are really giving him enough credit for how well he looked in his first ever postseason game.
Yeah, this is a guy who now has the most. So he's the youngest player to drop 25 in a playoff game since Hakeem Olajuwon. Most points in a playoff debut for a center in this decade. So Sengun came to play. This is a 22-year-old. People called him he shouldn't have been an all-star. He showed everyone why he was an all-star. And I'll just say this really quickly about the environment in the Toyota Center before I continue about Sengun. It was electric in there. It was good to see everyone showed up. The stadium announcer was forcing everybody to throw on the red shirts, which I love. You got to build that playoff culture early. And it's the loudest I've heard in there in a very long time. So that was great to see. But more on Sengun. Yeah, well, that step back three was absurd. I saw him do that once while he was in Turkey. It was on the film. And I was like, damn, I haven't seen him do this with the Rockets. And there it is. He ended up hit one. So if you can get that in the bag in the future, that would be lovely. But yeah, as a whole, Houston has to help out Sengun. I mean, you're coming in first playoff game, 26-9, elite efficiency. Like that's all you can ask for a 22-year-old. And one of my keys was, I didn't say this on pod, but I wanted Alperen Sengun to go at Draymond's chest because sometimes he strays away from those shorter, stockier guys, and the taller, skinnier players, he just goes at their chest and puts them under the rim. I'm happy he did that with Draymond Green. He was getting to his spots. The floater was dropping. He was getting to the low post and putting up that short hook. It was all easy money for him. So amazing first game for Alperen Sengun. I couldn't ask for a better start for our guy. So that's all I had to say on that note. But what was another thing you noticed, Will?
Steven Adams. I noticed Steven Adams in that first game. He only played 20 minutes, but in those 20 minutes, he had 12 rebounds, 5 of which were offensive. He was 3 or 4 from the field, so he was contributing mainly on the glass, setting screens and stuff like that. But he gave us 6 points as well on top of what he contributed on the glass. But it was honestly, it was what he did in the rebounding department that kept the Rockets, one, from getting blown out, but then brought us back into the game because we did go down. I believe it was 23 points. Was that the
Correct? Yeah, it was 66-43.
Yes, and so we were able to cut down a 23-point lead, which I'll say this too. People were giving up saying it was over when we was down 23, and I'm like, man, this is the NBA in 2025. Like with the way these dudes put up threes and go on runs, like there's no lead that's safe. I'd say maybe if you go with 30, you can maybe start kind of relaxing a little bit, but 25 point leads in 2025, man, that's not a safe lead anymore, man. So yeah, I even though we were down 23 points, I was not discouraged. And one of the reasons why I was not discouraged, I knew we had a run in this. I knew that they were going to go out there and fall back on their strengths. It's one of their strengths this entire season has been the rebound, the second chance opportunities. And Steven Adams checked in, especially in that second half, and just willed the Rockets back into the game almost by himself. Sengun was out there as well, but I think that Steven Adams was it's probably sad to say, but he was the second best player for the Rockets yesterday because of that impact on the glass. And then to kind of talk about the keys moving forward, it's going to be important. I saw Ime say after the game that he wants to get Steven Adams from like a 25-minute range. I think that's going to be important here. That he's going to have to play a bit more than 20 minutes per game, which is pretty funny because I don't think a lot of people saw Steven Adams playing this big of a role for us when we traded for him, but he's playing that role for us right now. He's super duper important for what we're doing. It's part of why I gave him the 6th man of the year recently. So I just understand that the level of impact he's had. So seeing him play a bit more was going to be super duper important for this team, and then for him to continue to give us second chance opportunities, to fight on the glass, to box out, secure defensive possessions, and so we can get out of transition, stuff like that. Things that he did for us yesterday, he's been doing for us all season long. I just want to make sure you got his flowers for that.
Yeah, I'll say this about Steve-O. Again, this is the same guy. I'm a numbers guy. It's the same guy who just broke the record for the highest offensive rebounding percentage of all time. And it was on full display in that first game. Not only on the offensive end, but on the defensive end as well. It's ridiculous, and it's extremely impressive how he's able to grab any and every rebound in his vicinity. I don't know what y'all were saying on the stream, Will, but some of those boards he was getting, he had no business finding a way to pick those up. So I agree with you. He was the second most impactful player for the Rockets in that game. And yeah, I agree with Ime Udoka. That's a guy who's going to probably have to see around 25 minutes. He said 20 to 25. I give him literally 25 or more if he's able to. Again, we'll see. But Steve-O, amazing job. You have to give them all the flowers in the world. And I'll go with my other key really quickly. Jabari Smith Jr. Jabari, while he was losing the ball a little bit too much for my liking, at 4 turnovers. Outside of that, man, he played really good, and he was a key part in Houston's comeback. Again, as we discussed, it was 66 to 43 in favor of Golden State. The Rockets do not come back if it's not for Jabari Smith Jr. This is a guy who didn't miss a single shot. He was 3 for 3, made his only 3-point attempt of the night, was 4-4 from the free throw line. He came to play on the offensive end, shooting wise. Played solid defense. I think Houston could get him more involved on offense. He's played good against Golden State, and I said on our last podcast, in his last five, not counting yesterday against the Golden State Warriors, he was averaging 16 points on 60 true shooting percentage, which is solid. So I'd like to see him more involved, maybe get him some more minutes. And if he has been playing well enough to close the game, he should close the game. I think Houston should have closed with him and not the starters. Again, there's a number of factors why Houston lost yesterday. That's not one of them, primarily, but it is something I definitely would have adjusted. But I wanted to give Barr his flowers.
That was gonna be my next thing. I'm pulling his numbers up as well.
Go ahead.
I thought Jabari Smith should have played more than 25 minutes.
Mhm.
He did have that rough start where he was turning the ball over a bit too much, and that's just kind of one thing I'll speak on with the whole team. We have to. I love the motto of sometimes you, sometimes me, always us. I like that motto. I love that we have multiple guys who can go out there and give you 10 plus nights on any given night, but that should not be like if Sengun has a mismatch, Sengun should be exploiting the mismatch pretty much anytime. If Jalen, in theory, because we'll talk about his struggles in a minute, but if Jalen in theory has a mismatch, we should be allowing him to attack those mismatches, right? We should not be defaulting to Tari Eason exploiting a mismatch if Sengun has one, for example, right? And there were times where I saw that happen yesterday where there was a possession, it was a really bad possession where Sengun had a mismatch on him and Tari had a mismatch on him, and they were both trying to post up at the same time. And I get it. Tari, take minutes of your mismatch. Sengun is the better offensive player, and he has a mismatch. At that point in time, it's time for you to go out, let Sengun post up, let him get the easy bucket there because we trust him a bit more offensively. That's not really Tari's job. So let's bring it to full circle to Jabari. I thought that Jabari was doing a little bit too much in the first half, right? Putting the ball on the floor a bit too much. And that's fine if, under different circumstances, but I think Jabari is at his best offensively when he's being a play finisher, right? Where it's him catching and shooting, attacking closeouts. I'm cool with him posting up. I'm cool with him hitting a little fadeaway, stuff like that. But trying to, 20 hezzy attack down, that's not his bag. No disrespect. That's not Jabari's bag. And I think that's part of the reason why he turned the ball over. And I'll talk about why I think that also was a problem later on. But yeah, I'll get that out of the way. But to Jabari's credit, though, he in the second half teed up. He had finished the game with 11.6 rebounds. He was 3 of 3 from the field, 1 of 1 from the 3-point line, 4 of 4 from the free throw line with 116 true shooting in just 25 minutes. He was great. He was the moment he checked in the third quarter, it was kind of when the run really picked up and got us back into the game. And that was because he came in, he made free throws, which was something we were not doing before he checked in. He made that corner three that the men got him. He had the little, it was like a shot he hit over. I think it was Draymond, in the mid-range area where he hit it in Draymond's face. Stuff like that. He came in, he teed up. And I thought that his energy and spacing and all he was providing to the team was pivotal in the comeback. I think he played well, especially considering a lot of guys struggled yesterday. I think Jabari is one of the 3 guys who did not struggle and therefore should have played himself into the closing lineup. And I think it's on Ime. I'll talk about it in a second. I think Ime could have been better, but I think it's on Ime that Jabari did not close the game. And then I guess we can kind of transition now. I would have closed with Jabari over one of our guards. You can pick whichever one. I don't really think there's a right or wrong answer. They were both really, really bad yesterday. And I'm not going to do the whole my guy was less bad than your guy. They were both bad. So you could pick whichever one you want, Fred or Jalen. I think one of those 2 guys should have sat on the bench, and then I would have played, like I said, one of Fred or Jalen, at least one of those guys. I would have put DB at the 2, a min at the 3, Bari at the 4, and Sengun at the 5. I think that was the best 5 we had to close the game yesterday. And I'm not going to say we would have won per se, but I think that would have given us a better chance of winning than what we did instead of rolling with our starters. So that's an area where I think Ime could have also improved it. I think Ime also, I think he left Jalen on the bench a bit too long in that second quarter. Now, mind you, Jalen finished the game not the best, and like I said, I'll talk about Jalen in a second as well. But I do think that Jalen could have checked in a bit sooner. There was a lineup in the second quarter where it was Amin at the 1, Tari at the 2, Bari at the 3, Sengun at the 4, and Adams at the 5. It was like the 5 tallest players on our team were on the court at the same time. And like I get the thought process behind it, but the problem for me, and I was saying this in real time in playback, is that lineup forces Amin to be the sole ball handler. Because with all due respect, Tari Eason cannot dribble, Jabari cannot dribble, Steven Adams cannot dribble, Sengun can dribble, but he's more of the post up, operate top of the key. Like he's not breaking. Well, I can take that. He can break a defense down, but like in terms of guard play, like that's not really what you want Sengun doing, right? And so like in terms of guard play or like ball handlers, it was just Amin. And y'all know I love Amin Thompson. His handle is not there for him to be the sole creator. I think he can exist with somebody else out there with him, but where he's the only guy who can attack a close or attack a defense, a set defense off the dribble, that's a problem. So like funny enough, a guy like Aaron Holiday, who I've had a love-hate relationship, I think would make me been pretty good in that lineup there. For one of probably Tari in this hypothetical, you probably would have sat Tari and then had Aaron Holiday in that lineup because I think he can go out there, handle the ball, hit some shots. But if not, Aaron Holiday, obviously one of Jalen or Fresh would be on the court there. And I think that lineup played too long without another guard. And that was another area we kind of let the lead slip away. Was we went with that lineup a bit too long when it wasn't prepared for Golden State. I think that's really all my qualms with Ime in terms of his coaching. Just more Jabari and more guard play, but more like so I don't need Fred playing more than 40 minutes. I need more good guard play. Let's put it like that. But yeah, that's where I'll end my plan on that one.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. I'll comment on what you brought up as well. I'll start with the Aaron Holiday point. He's played good minutes, and I brought this up in our last podcast. He's played good minutes against Golden State this year. Had 25 points against Golden State in one of their losses. I would be playing Aaron Holiday in these games. Houston shot 6 of 29 from the 3-point line. They need shooting. If you're going to be scoring 85 points, if we're going to be playing a 2000s brand of basketball, 1990s brand of basketball, look, just put the ball in the bucket. You can hold Golden State to under 100 points. I'm confident in the Rockets' ability to do that. I would get some shooting out there, and I'm starting with Aaron Holiday. So he needs to be playing. I agree with Will in that aspect. When it comes to that double big lineup, Will, you can tell me if I'm wrong. It was 19-12 when Houston went to that lineup. And I said this right away. This is a lineup I would not run if Stephen Curry is in the game. I do know in the third and fourth they were running it while Steph was out there, and it was they were still kind of going on the run. But in that first quarter, that's when the lead just dwindled away. It's difficult if they're gonna go 5 out. And Steve Kerr did this strategically. He went 5 out with Steph out there when we went double big. And he was like, all right, if y'all want to beat this, y'all got to guard these shooters. So, I mean, Steph, it looks like when we're guarding him, and I'm sure that's a whole topic in itself. Steph went off. He was hitting ridiculous shots. Only so much you can do about the great shooter of all time. But I like it best when Amin Thompson is holding them or Dylan is holding them or you're face guarding them. You're forcing the Warriors to play 4-on-4. You can't necessarily do that in the 2-3 zone. You can't run a man-to-man coverage with Steven Adams out there along with Alperen Sengun just because you don't want Steve-O out there running the perimeter. And I did see that on a few occasions, and he was just getting ran off the line. So I don't like it in that scenario. I thought they went away from it, the double big with Steph out there, but they went back to it. Just know in the future, like if Steph gets the ball, I did like how they were trapping immediately, forcing Steph to hit the pick and roll guy, and there would really be nothing there after the fact. But just you have to be strategic with the double big lineup because it can get ugly on offense, as Will mentioned. Amin is the only ball handler, and those possessions they just weren't pretty. There's not much you can really do in that lineup offensively. They dominate off of getting 65% of the offensive rebounds and 85% of the defensive rebounds. That's the statistics with that lineup before yesterday's game. So those are two things I noticed off of what Will just brought up. I don't know if you had anything else to mention.
Yeah, I want to kind of respond to something you said. I don't think like were there possessions where Steven Adams got like picked on defensively? Yes, like especially I think it was the second quarter where
yes, it was the second.
But I'm gonna be real. I don't think the defense with that lineup or the game really was the issue. We held them to just 95 points, which
I agree.
in 2025 is like that's insane. Like to hold a
Mhm.
team to just 95 points, guys are scoring 130 in their sleep these days. So
Right.
holding a team under 100 is pretty impressive. The
Mhm.
problem with that lineup for me and the problem with the game itself is we just couldn't score, right? That was the issue, right? That's why I said I think we needed another guard out there to help us
Mhm.
initiate the offense, break down the defense, and then hit those standstill shots that we couldn't hit with that lineup out there. That was my problem with it, was just that we couldn't score. The defense I think was more or less what we wanted, and even with that, like it's with Steph and Jimmy Butler having the performances they had, which I'll talk about in a
Right.
second as well. But yeah, I think the bigger issue was we just couldn't score. But yeah, to talk about why we couldn't score, I think the lack of scoring was the problem. I think
Mhm.
that was the reason we lost yesterday. And
Yep.
I have to look no further than my backcourt that I am paying about like $65 million combined, I believe. I think Fred's getting around actually it's a bit
40.
more than that actually, because Fred's getting about 37,
40.
38, right?
They'd be around 40. Yeah.
40? Okay. Yeah, I'm tripping. It's about 40. Yeah. It's about 40. And then Jalen next year's getting about 30, 35, I believe. So a little bit more than that. But yeah, Fred VanVleet in his 40 minutes, Lord have mercy, had 10 points, 4 of 19 from the field, 2 of 13 from three, 26 true shooting. And I went back and I rewatched every shot he took this morning, and I remember at least 6 of them were like wide open. Matter of fact, somebody went through and classified every three that we took, and the vast, like 90% of them were classified as either open or wide open. So it wasn't like we were generating bad shots. It wasn't like we were getting contested, and that's what we were missing. We just missed a bunch of open threes, and Fred VanVleet was one of the biggest reasons for that. Also, I think he could have took. I mean, it's also Fred's game, but smarter shots within the flow of the game and within the flow of where he is in the game, because he took a couple of shots that were like heat check shots, except he was not hot at all. Like there was a it's kind of a funny moment at this point where like we're on a run, kind of trying to cut the lead down, and he takes this pull up three in transition, and the announcer's like, Fred's 3 of 15, won't go. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, bro, if you 3 of 15, why are we taking transition pull up threes? It's not your night right now. So he could have played better on that aspect. And then Jalen Green, in 31 minutes, had 7 points, 3 of 15 from the field, 0 of 4 from three, 22 true shooting, which same thing there. That's very, very bad. And the problem with that is same thing with Fred. A lot of those shots were open. I went back and looked at a lot of them. They were open, catch and shoot threes. There was a really nasty possession for Jalen where I think it was in the fourth quarter where Steven Adams gave him, I'm talking, it's nobody near Jalen. Jalen had he had 2-3 seconds to set his feet, square up, make a shot, missed a wide open three. They get the offensive rebound, goes to Jalen again, smokes a layup. And it's like in the same possession, I think that kind of summarized what that game was like for Jalen. He really couldn't get anything going from an offensive standpoint. And it's discouraging because a lot of those shots were open. And then the ones that were initially open, he was being guarded by Steph Curry and Brandon Podziemski. And no disrespect to those two guys, but those are matchups that Jalen Green, if he's a Jalen Green that we believe he can be, those are matchups he has to be able to win consistently. And he did not. So, those are two problematic areas in the game. But I'll talk about, in the next 7 why I'm still very encouraged despite that.
Yeah. I'll say this about the backcourt. Fred, 4 of 19, led the team in shots. He's been doing this all year. He said it at the start of the season. And when I say he's been doing this all year, I'm saying that Fred had mentioned it doesn't matter what he's shooting in the game. He's going to play it like he's going to at the start of the start of the game. Like he's going to shoot whatever shot he has that's open or whatever shot that's in his shot diet. So, I mean, like when we're on a run and he's, say, 3 of 15, he's taking those pull up threes. That's just something as Rockets fans we're going to have to live with, and he's going to have to hit those. I don't personally like the shots, but again, it's a tough night for Fred. He started really well, very energetic. Got that steal from Steph in the first half. He's getting hype on the floor. I was getting hype with him. But man, it was just ugly from there. He missed a ton of open shots. I'd love to see that stat Will brought up about the open threes. Fred missed a ton of open threes. So yeah, he's had a bad season against Golden State. I don't have those averages in front of me, but it's less than 10 points a game against Golden State this year on really, really bad efficiency. Again, Fred is an important piece of this team, stabilizer, all those things, yes, but he does have to be efficient at the end of the day. And I think he could really help Houston win the series, especially if he's hitting shots at a normal basis. I'm not asking him to be 30 points a night or even 20 points a night. Just be efficient and take shots within the flow of the offense. And I did say he's going to be taking these shots like he has been all season. But just within the flow of the offense, just hit the shots, hit the open ones. That's all I can ask for. As for Jalen, it was a rough night for him. He's trying to get to the cup. He's not getting calls. He's kind of running in straight lines, and he's not going to get calls in that way. But I'm not worried about him at this point in time. He has also had a bad season against Golden State, despite the last one where he popped off in that fourth quarter, thankfully. But Jalen, yeah, he's got to be better. 315 is not going to cut it. It is his first playoff game. Will mentioned it on Twitter. This doesn't mean, oh, look at Jalen. He shot 3 for 15 in his first playoff game. We're going to trade him. No, that's not what that means. Like, this is a young team, first playoff appearance. It doesn't mean he's just automatically gone. But I'm not going to sit here and say, that it's okay. I mean, Jalen has to play better. If Houston wants to win the series, he was an X factor for me. Will as well. He has to play better than that for Houston to win. And it's the reason why I'm still optimistic about this series. Will, you can chime in on that as well. For the Rockets, who Fred VanVleet, again, 4-19, Jalen, 3-15. Amin did not have a good game by his standards. The Rockets were down by 3 in the crunch time of this game with all those things in play. And then that's what Steph getting off. That's what Jimmy getting off. The Rockets are right in that game, comfortably. Like, they could have easily won. A lot of things didn't go in their favor offensively. So I'm very confident in this series still. You got to get game 2, but got to have better production from Jalen and Fred VanVleet. Will, I didn't know what you wanted to talk about next. I'll get into Amin a little later. But if
That's
you
what I
want
was
to talk
talking
about
about.
it,
Is Amin.
go ahead and talk about Amin. I'll chime in
Yeah,
after.
I hold Amin to a really high standard because
Thank
I believe that he I think in a year he's gonna be the best player on this team. And so with that comes expectations. With that comes a standard, and he did not live up to that standard at all yesterday. And I can sit here and tell you that it's his first playoff game and he's young and whatnot, but I hold great players to great standards, and then I think he didn't live up to those standards yesterday. In 33 minutes, he had 8 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists. So he set the stat sheet in terms of the rebounds and assists, still department by department as well. He just could not make layups for some reason yesterday. The putbacks, the same dunker spot shots that he's made with regularity all season long, he did not make any of them yesterday. There was a really bad possession. I believe it led to us. I can't remember if we scored or if we didn't score, but I know we got the offensive rebound again. But there was a really bad possession where I think it was Fred missed the shot. Amin got the rebound and went up with it, and it's a wide open layup. Missed it. And I know Jabari ended up getting the rebound again. I can't remember from there if we scored or not. But that kind of summed up the night from Amin. He just, the same dunker spot shots, the same layups, the same putbacks he had hit all season long. These are, point blank shots at the rim. He just did not make. He did not look comfortable. And then for somebody who, I'm not gonna say he's the world's best free throw shooter, but I don't think he's 0-4 from the free throw line bad. And that's what he shot yesterday. He shot 0-4 from the free throw line, did not make a single free throw. And that's in a game that you lose by 10 points. We missed 9 free throws, which I'll talk about in a second as well. Like, you make free throws, it's a different ball game. So make your free throws, make your layups. And then we look at his game a lot differently. I'll do the math on what the TS and point per game would come out to if he just, converted, I guess we'll say 3 more shots and made 3 free throws. I bet you it's probably like 16, 17 points on pretty good efficiency. And that's honestly the difference maker. Like, just that alone, including the Fred, Jalen disaster classes, including Steph and Jimmy having master classes. If Amin Thompson plays the way that we've seen him play in the past, we win that game. That right there is the difference. And then on top of that, I'm not going to tell you that his defense on Steph was bad, but and Steph is Steph. Steph's is gonna go off. Like I say all the time, you can't stop great players. You can only hope to slow them down and make it difficult on them. And Steph is a great player, so you're not going to stop Steph. Like, there was of Steph's made buckets, half of them, I ain't gonna lie to you, with some crazy shots. Only Steph get hit, dude. Like that 3, he hit in the right corner. I'm not gonna lie, Jalen pretty much fouled the dude. I don't think, credit to Jalen, I don't think Jalen could have played that possession any better than what he did, and Steph still made the 3.
And Will, on that 3-pointer in the stadium, everyone was shocked. Like, everyone had the exact same expression, and it was like, what do you do about that?
There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can't guard that any better than what Jalen did. Like I said, Jalen's pretty much fouling him, and it doesn't matter. He still made the shot. So I'm not going to say that Amin should have, just shut down Steph, but I think there were times where his defense lacked focus. I thought he gambled a couple times and then got beat because he gambled. Different stuff like that I have not seen Amin, mistakes I haven't seen Amin make, especially the last time we saw the Warriors, he didn't make these mistakes. So that being said, on the positive side, I think if anybody is taking this L personal, I think it is Amin. I don't expect him to play this bad ever again on either side of the court, whether it's offensively or defensively. I don't think he's ever going to miss as many layups and free throws as he did yesterday. And I think he's going to approach the defensive perspective on Steph a lot more focused this time around as well. But yeah, he was also bad yesterday. So yeah, I want to talk about that.
I 100% agree with Will. I hold him to a very high standard. Expect him to be top 25 very soon. Just on both sides of the ball, he wasn't himself. And Will, I don't have the stats pulled in front of me. If you do, how many minutes did Amin play?
33.
Yeah, see, even then, Amin, when he's playing like he's supposed to, in this series, he's playing 40 plus. And there's a reason he played 33. Ime was taking him out for a reason. He got beat on a backdoor cut from Steph. And again, the defense wasn't the reason the Rockets necessarily lost this game. But just stuff like that, though, like getting beat on a backdoor cut, he just wasn't himself as a whole. I expect him to be a lot better. When it comes to Fred and Jalen, I personally don't know what to expect from them on a game-to-game basis. But when it comes to Alperen Thompson, I can tell you right now, he's not going to look like this in this series for the most part. That's not who he is. I've watched him the past 2 seasons thoroughly. Like, that's not who he is, and I expect him to be a lot better. And personally, again, like I said, I don't know what I'm going to get from Fred and Jalen on a game-to-game basis, but Alperen Thompson, if he just plays better, as Will said, like the Rockets win that game, again, in a game where you lost by 10, it was a 3-point game down the stretch. You win if Amin hits a few extra shots, if he's on the floor 7 more minutes playing the impactful defense that he's been playing all year. Again, like, I'm not concerned. Alperen Thompson, and I put out a stat this year against the Warriors. In the last game against the Warriors, he held them to 0-9 from the field. Against Stephen Curry this year, he held them to 2 of 8 from the field. And now, the Warriors fans are circling back on that tweet now after last night's game, as they should. And again, I'm saying to them, hey, Alperen Thompson, off game is cool. Steph went off on one of those Steph games. It's going to happen. Steph can go for 2 one game and 50 the next. But I'll tell you this, Amin is not looking like that again. And if he does, I'll be very shocked. And I'll have to tip the cap again. But, yeah, I'm not concerned about Alperen Thompson. I think he'll be perfectly fine. So hopefully he can get out there and play 40-plus minutes tonight because, in my opinion, and we'll probably agree, that's what it's necessarily going to look like if Amin being himself. That's a guy who's playing damn near most minutes on the team.
I did the math on it. So if he would have, because mind you, he took 9 shots and all of them were like restricted. Oh, and I take it back. He did make a midi. And I know he also missed a midi.
He did.
But I believe the other 7 shots were all restricted area at the rim shots that 6'7" best athlete in the world should make with like in his sleep. And shots we've seen him make, like they're not even shots, they're layups and floaters that we've seen him make in his sleep, right? So if he goes, instead of 4 of 9, let's say he goes 7 of 9 from the field, it makes 3 free throws, 3 of the 4 free throws, which I think is also a pretty reasonable mark. Say he splits the pair one time. His points now goes up to 17 on 79 TS. So that's 17 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, still on the block on 79 true shooting. We win the game, and the discourse around Alperen Thompson is completely different. And right. I know that's not how basketball works. You just can't say, well, just make more free throws, make more shots. But these are, like I said, these are shots. They're not difficult shots. I'm not asking him to go out there and hit threes. I'm asking him to make layups that I've seen him make in the past. I'm asking him to hit a free throw that I know he can make. Right? I'm not asking him to do anything that I don't know he can't do. So yeah, that's that right there in and of itself. Forget the bad performances from Jalen and Fred. Forget the Jimmy Steph masterclass. If just Amin plays better, which we know he can do, which I know he will do, we win the game. But I think that's all the negatives I want to kind of get across. I do want to speak on some reasons why, despite the fact that we did lose, I'm still encouraged. I still have the Rockets winning the series. Number one, we've been talking about it all pod. Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry had like some of their best performance. They're probably gonna. I mean, Steph might go for like 50 one game in the playoffs, but like he played as good as you could realistically hope him to. In his 40 minutes, he had 31 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal. He was 12 of 19 from the field, 5 of 9 from three, 78 true shooting, which to put that in perspective for y'all, league average is like 57, 58. So y'all do the math on how much higher he was than league average. That's insane. And then Jimmy Butler had 25 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 steals, which that goes to the turnover part. He had 5 steals. We were throwing some really dumb turnovers. So we kind of just let him walk into 5 steals. But he had 5 steals, 10-19 from the field, 1 or 2 from 3, 4 or 6 from the free throw line, 58 true shooting. So they both played like I imagine when the Warriors traded for Jimmy Butler and paired up with Steph Curry, they envisioned that duo having games like the ones they had yesterday. So they played out of their minds, right? The Rockets shot 11 of 20 from the free throw line, meaning we missed 9 free throws. We had 16 turnovers, and we shot 6 of 29 from the three-point line, which is, if you round up, 21% from 3. And like I said, that's on, y'all go look at those shots. It's on mostly wide open catch and shoot threes. So it's not like we out here getting smothered on the three-point line missing. This isn't Game 7, 2018, where we're getting assaulted on the three-point line. We're missing open shots. So you factor in Jimmy, Steph played phenomenal, right? We couldn't make free throws, had a bunch of turnovers, couldn't make threes. Jalen and Fred played terrible. Amin had a game that I don't expect them to ever have a second time. And we all that combined, and we only lost by 10. And like Brad said, there was a point in time where the game was 3 points, where we were very much in the game. And that was to mount a comeback. Forget like being in the game the whole time. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, because that's not how basketball works, that we would just win in that hypothetical. But I would be a bit more concerned if we got up here and played the best game possible, right? And not even just played the best game possible. If the areas for improvement aren't like some of the things that I think are easily rectifiable. Like I'm not gonna say it's easy to make free throws, but dude, make your free throws, right? I'm not gonna say that it's easy to make open threes, but you're an NBA player, you're professionals. We're paying you to make open threes. Make open threes. Don't turn the ball over as many times, right? That comes from like Jabari and Tari not trying. Like Jabari shouldn't have 4 turnovers. He shouldn't have 4 turnovers. We shouldn't be having Jabari in positions where he's dribbling the ball and putting the ball on the ground. That must have the ball turned over 4 times. Same thing with like Tari. Tari had 1, but I promise you, I feel like he had more. Amin had, I believe, 2 or 3. Yeah, Amin had 2. So like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and Amin's turnovers were bad too because he was. It was like in that first quarter when he was kind of somewhat out of control, lost the handle, threw it up. Jimmy came and stole it. Right, stuff like that. That's stuff we can cut out. That's not like a. Something that you can't fix. You can cut that out of the game, and you combine all of those things. Play some better defense than what we played. We played pretty good defense, but play a bit more discipline on stuff. I'm looking at this game like, man, we was right there, and we played terrible. We played the worst game we could have played, and I'm not gonna say they played the best they could have played, but like I said, they got. I would imagine that is what they wanted, what they envisioned when they paired up Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry. I imagine that game is what it looks like. So they played a really good basketball game. We played a terrible basketball game, and we only lost by 10. And that was, like I said, with us cutting the lead down to 3 at one point in time. And I think the game was a bit closer than a 10-point lead would let you on to believe. So all that in mind, like you don't want to lose game 1. That's a bad L. But I'm still encouraged. I don't look at this game and say that we're cooked goods, that we can't win the series because we lost game 1. Like I think the funniest thing in the world is game 1 overreactions, because we've seen all the time where teams win game 1 and then go on to. I mean, we're Rockets fans, dude. How many times did we win game 1 with James Harden and then go on to lose the series? And then conversely, this is one thing I was talking about in my point here is that the infamous 2018 Western Conference Finals, bro. I don't know if you remember, we got blew out in game 1 in 2018. Yes, and I remember because my 17, I was 17 at the time, was so happy to go to that game and left the game so mad when we got home and got blew out. So I remember watching us get blown out game 1 in 2018. And obviously we're going to lose that series, but I think everyone watching this podcast would agree when I say that's a series we should have won. If Chris Paul stays healthy, if the refs don't give us the worst officiated game of all time in game 7, we win that series. And that's with us getting blown out in game 1 to a scarier version of this team that we're facing right now. So series aren't decided by one game. It's a series for a reason. I'm encouraged, even though we lost. I still got Rockets in 6.
Yeah, reasons I'm optimistic as well. Things that will stay consistent in this series is the Rockets' strong suit. They're first in the NBA in rebounding. over 50% of the time they're getting the rebound. Again, Golden State, they're not the best rebounding team. Rockets won the rebounding battle by 16 in this one. Is a huge reason why they ended up coming back. Again, shout out to Steven Adams. But the Rockets are just more physical than them. They have more size than them. And that can really play to Houston's advantage. Again, with all the factors we discussed earlier, the Rockets damn near could have won this game with terrible showings from a bunch of players. And I look at this. If I look at Golden State right now, they scored 95 points. Outside of Steph and Jimmy, they shot 14 of 36 as a team. Like you forcing these other guys on the team to beat you, and you have a good chance to win. I'm not really scared of the Golden State supporting cast. Draymond, he's solid on the defensive end, of course, but as an offensive player, we're living with it. We're living with a lot of guys on that team. Yes, they have some shooters like Buddy Hield. You can't just leave wide open. They have some solid shooting in there, but I like the defensive scheme to the point where, and we saw in the previous game against Golden State, where Houston won in Golden State. They only had 96 points. Force the other guys on that team to beat you, and you have a good chance to win. Now, Steph and Jimmy, they can get off like that again. Jimmy, he's a playoff riser, as is Steph. Cool. They're going to go out there and score 30, 40. So be it. But the rest of that team is just not that good, in my personal opinion. They're not awful, of course, but they're not good enough to the point where if you force them to beat you, it's going to completely take you out of the game. The Rockets can win the game playing the defensive scheme that they've been running. And especially getting the boards that they're going to be able to get in this series. Again, I don't think that's going to change. I personally still believe the Rockets can win this series. It's going to be very important now to win game two. Going down 0-2, going to Golden State, it doesn't look good.
Nah, that it's probably over if that happens.
It's probably, I don't know.
It's probably over if that happens.
It's going to be ugly. It's going to be ugly. You don't want to put yourself in that hole as a young team. Definitely need game two. But for the things we mentioned in this podcast, I do personally believe the Rockets can still win this series. I'm not over here concerned. I know people are like, oh my God, it's over. Just look at this showing. That was pathetic. Like, it's done. No, I really don't think it is. Like, the Rockets' strong suits can really keep them in this series. And if they want to play basketball the way they're supposed to, and the way that I've seen them this year, they can win the series. Like, they're a 2 seed for a reason. They're not sorry. They're not sad. Like, go out there and hoop. So we'll see what happens. But I mean, those were necessarily my keys and my thoughts on that first game. Continue to let those other guys on the team beat you and hit some damn shots, please. That's what I got there.
I got two more things I want to add, and then I am.
Go ahead, and I'll chime in on those.
Yeah, Jimmy played 42 minutes. Steph played 40. These guys are 37, 38, I think. Well, I think Steph might be 36, 37, somewhere in that ballpark. They've both been in the league for a period of time. I don't know, man. Over a 7-game series, having them play 40 minutes a night. So like, I'm not gonna say they barely beat us. They beat us by 10, but I think the game was a bit closer than what the 10-point lead tells you. And like I said, that was us playing bad. I think I like my chances as a young athletic team against these older teams, having to play their best guys who are also old 40 plus minutes a night to beat us. I think I like my chances with that. But the last thing I want to say, and Brian touched on a little bit earlier, was this the narrative that's going around right now that this series is going to determine Jalen Green's future on this team? I disagree entirely. I think one, from the Rockets perspective, this is just my opinion on the Rockets, not necessarily saying what I would do if I was going to call them the shot, just what I think the Rockets are going to do. I think they already know what the plan is with Jalen Green. I think they're going to use not just this season, but his entire 4-year sample in Houston. And then also, what they project him to do next season to make an informed decision on his future on the team. I don't think you overlook that for a potential 7-game sample size in a playoff setting, right? We've seen Jalen Green go on stretches where he looks like the best player on earth in small sample sizes. We've also seen him look not that good in small sample sizes. So it's like, to use a 7-game sample, I know it's in the playoffs, but to use that as a determining end all be all, I don't agree with. I don't. The Rockets are going to do that. I think that's kind of a bad way to look at it. Like I said, if I was a betting man, I think that sans like Devin Booker hitting the trade market, which it doesn't seem like he's going to. It seems like Phoenix is planning to keep him. They said they're going to give him like a 2-year, $150 extension, which I believe would make him the highest paid player in NBA history. Which, like, if you're Devin Booker, you accept that type of extension. I don't think Devin Booker's in the trade market this summer. And if that's the case, I don't really see a player that becomes available that makes the Rockets move on from Jalen this summer. So if I was a betting man, I think he's still the starting shooting guard of our team going into next season. That doesn't mean he finishes the season there or that he's the shooting guard of the future, like, long term. I just think going into the offseason, I would be shocked if they moved him. And then if you're somebody whose opinion of Jalen Green would be swayed by a 7-game series, I'm going to ask you, were you convicted on your opinion anyways? Because if I'm somebody who is out on Jalen Green, I think he's not saying I do, but I'm saying if I'm this person, I think he's trash. I think he has to get traded. A 7-game sample of Jalen Green playing well should not make you go from he's trash, get him off my team to, oh wait, he's not the future of my team. If all it took was him to have a good 7-game series and you went from get him off my team, you wasn't convicted anyways. That's a pretty fickle, wishy-washy stance. You know what I'm saying? Because we've seen him do this before. We've seen him have March 2024 where he goes crazy on in a small sample size. So if all it took was for him to go off in a playoff setting for you to change your mind, I don't know if he was convicted anyways. And then on the flip side, if you're somebody who was like, keep Jalen Green, he's the future of this team, and then he has a bad series and you're like, trade him. Once again, were you really that convicted? Because there's no way that you went from future of this team to he's trash, get him off the team in 7 games, especially considering that this is his first playoff setting. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that that excuses how bad he played, because it doesn't. But that is the context that is needed, is that he was in his first playoff series. And typically young players take a second to adjust. So I'm not going to sit here and what I'm not going to do for sure is write him off for good because of one playoff game. Like, I'm going to at least let the series play out before I even have any of these conversations. And even then, like, I feel like however you felt about Jalen coming into the series, you should still feel the same way leaving the series, because it's just not like there's no way your entire opinion will be swayed by 7 games. There's just to me, there's just no way. And if your opinion was swayed by 7 games, like I said, I think that means you weren't convicted in your opinion anyways. But that's all I had to say about that.
Yeah, I'll chime in on that point again with Jalen, and I pray to God that it doesn't look like this the entire series. If it does, then maybe we'll have some conversations. But I don't believe Jalen is getting moved. Again, you have a young team that comes out there with 52 wins. It's the youngest team in franchise history to win 50 games, like into the 2 seed. Ideally, you keep that core together and see what they got going next year. If you want to make a move, you make a move off a player that is not going to be there long term, and you're bringing in someone that helps the young core. But ideally, again, young team, 50 wins, boom, let's see what they got going next year. As Will has mentioned, this playoff experience can help them going forward. They should be better going forward after this experience. And if not, then there's some conversations that can be had. But yeah, again, a bad series from Jalen Green. I mean, maybe conversations will be had, but I personally don't believe the Rockets are trying to make any moves like that going forward. And there's another deciding factor in this. I'm losing it at the moment, but when it comes to Jalen, I actually lost my point. Will, there's a good point when it came to Jalen, but I really just don't think they're gonna move off him. Again, they probably decided what they wanted to with him. Young scoring guard. At the end of the day, like just see what he's got going for next season. But he does have to play better. I think they're gonna keep him.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with it. Play better. Backcourt played unacceptably bad. And men don't expect them to be that bad again. Somebody got to step up and help Sengun. But I'm not discouraged. I'm still very optimistic. The only thing that kind of keeps me up at night right now is that I have to wait till Wednesday to get revenge. I wish it
Yeah, that's
wasn't.
the worst. That's the worst.
Yeah, I hate that I gotta sit with this L for the next 2 days. But outside of that, man, I mean, game 2 down does become have to win it, because you cannot go to Golden State down 0-2. Now I probably would be a bit concerned if we leave Houston without getting one.
I agree.
Yeah, so you gotta get at least one while you're at home. So maybe they get the first game jitters out the way, be in a lab working on your jumpers, the turnovers, the key attention to detail, stuff like that. I think we're in a good spot though. I'm not sure. I'm not discouraged just yet. But we'll be back to break down whatever happens. Hopefully it's a win in game 2 going into Golden State. But yeah, we appreciate y'all for listening to the episode. If I have anything else to say, I'll let you.
I'll say this: it finally came. If it finally came back to me. My
Okay.
other factor was, when it comes to the trade market, there really aren't any other guys available outside of Devin Booker. I don't think Devin Booker is going to be available unless Ant magically appears to be available. I don't think that's going to
He's not
happen.
gonna be available.
So yeah. That's what I was trying to say. Jalen is going to be a rocket. Hopefully, he plays better. As well mentioned, it sucks we have to wait until Wednesday, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully, they take game 2. It's a very pivotal game in the series. Don't want to go down 0-2 going back to San Francisco. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully, they win. And we do appreciate y'all for tuning into this episode of the Bradeaux Show. We'll be back.